Millions of dollars have already been pledged to restore the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral. The Paris landmark dates back to 1163. That's when construction began. It was completed in 1345. The cause of the fire, which was extensive, the damage was extensive. The cause is still unknown, though. But officials say that the fire is under control and the iconic bell towers are okay. So Candida Moss, the Edward Cadbury Professor for Theology at Britain's University of Birmingham, is here with us now. Candida, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I think that, the cathedral is one of a handful of landmarks that people think of when they think of Paris. And so they know it for its architecture. But tell us more about its significance and its history.
So it's this 800-year-old cathedral, and really the history of Notre Dame is interwoven with the history of France. So it's not just the place that kings and emperors were crowned and married. It's also the place that during the French Revolution, people converted into a shrine to the cult of reason because it was so important to French history. It's also where Joan of Arc was made a saint. And this is a place that really, for French people, stands not just as the emblem of the Catholic Church in the country, but as a cultural and political center.
Right, and then there is the religious and artistic significance within the church, the incredible art, the incredible artifacts. What was typically housed in that church?
So within the church, you have, as you have in all churches of this stature, you have remarkable artwork. You have paintings from the 17th century, many of which seem to have been saved. You also have huge sculptures that would not have been able to be moved and may have suffered fire damage. The most remarkable elements of the church is actually the structure of the building itself, the flying buttresses, the stained glass windows in the shape of roses, which date all the way back to the 13th century, but they also had some relics, for example, a portion of the crown of thorns, and that was able to be saved.
That is definitely good news. But this is Holy Week. It was Palm Sunday on Sunday, and it continues through to Easter. That has to sort of make this loss even more devastating.
It's much more profound. So Good Friday is a day of mourning for Catholics around the world because it commemorates the death of Jesus. But this year, French Catholics will also be mourning the loss of this great cathedral.
Yes.
They had 16 services planned, and of course, none of them will be able to go ahead as scheduled. Every year on Good Friday, the Cathedral of Notre Dame de Paris displays part of the crown of thorns to the public, and as they've saved it, it will be interesting to see where will they display that this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of money already being pledged. Billionaires pledging money, GoFundMe pages already set up. Will they be able to rebuild?
It seems like now they will at least have the money, and if there's something good to come out of this fire, is to consider that only a few days ago the French government had said they would only commit 25% of the cost of the sort of fairly bare bones renovation, and now money is flooding in from private donors, as well as the president committing to rebuild the cathedral.
We were talking a little bit earlier about these sort of medieval churches and how in medieval times the threat of fire when it came to a church or cathedral was constant, and these churches, these buildings were constantly being caught on fire and then being rebuilt.
That's correct. In the medieval period, people were constantly aware of the threat of fire because they had live flames everywhere. It was the only way to light the building.
Right.
And I think what's so shocking about this is that you would think that with all of our technological advances and knowledge, that we would be able to withstand something like this.
Yes, as I was watching the fire, I kept on thinking, isn't there a sprinkler system? Isn't there something? Candida Moss, I know we're going to talk to you a little bit later on in the day in our next show, so thank you so much.
Thanks.